Oh, all right. We're on Daf Mem, and we're in the middle of this world that we should be more familiar with. B'nai Chutz La'aretz. That's my excuse. I don't know. We were in the middle of talking about the issue of the Lakita of Eitzim. If we gather together wood, the purpose of the wood at the time of its gathering will determine its status, whether it has Kedushat Shviit or not. If you're gathering, remember we talked about different things that were taking. Well, it wasn't wood that we started with. We started with other issues. We said, right, we're taking the leaves, the alekanim, the alegafanim that you collected them. If you took it for the animal feed, that's food. If you took it for the purpose, basically of being like wood, so then it does not have kedushat shviit. Remember we had this discussion. Mm-hmm. Are you with me? Recollections?
I thought we were on Lamed Ted Amud Bet.
We're on Mem Amud Aleph already. Long time. Mem Amud Aleph. Long time. We did a whole half an Amud. Don't make me go backwards, please. What? We're 2/3 of the way through. We're up to the word Stam Eitzim.
Right. Stam.
Right. We have Amar Rava Stam Eitzim Ulahasaka Ein Omdin.
That's correct.
Right. So the statement of Rava that we're dealing with a case of Stam Eitzim, and that Stam Eitzim, the assumption is they are for the purpose of hasaka. Hasaka means burning, not burning for the light, but burning for the heat, and particularly the coals that are formed after the burning has transpired, and that's because that the heat is a stable heat.
When you make a fire outside, I speak as an old voice guy.
Well, I take your word for it.
No, when you make a fire, the flames are hot, no question, it will burn you. But the coals, once the fire goes out,
it's the coals.
Cook on the coal.
There you go. That's what it's for. So that means hasaka. I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 lines up, 16 lines up from the bottom of 48. And 48, the first word on the line is Rava. There's actually the last one on the line for Amar Rava. Stam Eitzim Ulahasaka Ein Omdin. That was the discussion that we were talking about before. That brought us to this point. The truth is, as I'm saying these words, my eye is scanning a little higher. And I remember, I forgot to mention something else, which is that, remember, the Torah uses the expression that during the year of Shemitah, V'ayta Shabbat ha'aretz lachem lo'ochla, that the cessation, the Shabbat of the land is for you for eating. Lecha u'la'avdecha v'la'amatecha v'lischircha lo'toshavcha agarim imach. I don't remember the pasuk that well. I have a quotation right here in my fancy Gemara in the Torah Oret, so I read it. Hopefully, I read it pretty well, but it has with the Nikudot. Al the Bali Kriya nodding, so it's a good sign. The point is lachem le'ochla. It has to be that you can eat it, and the understanding is that we learned that the consumption and in other words, it's consumption, it's destruction or consumption is at exactly the same moment that you're getting benefit out of it. When there's a time lag from A to B, that's not going to be good enough. So in other words, that was why there was a question about the lulav back in the day, where a lulav and date palm branches would be tied together, turned upside down, and used as a broom. Once you do that, it's getting worn down as it's cleaning. So that's considered that the biur and the hana are happening at exactly the same time. When there's a time lag, hold on a second, you're burning the oil. So you're burning the oil to make light. As it's burning, it's being consumed as the light is shining. So you have that. But if you're burning the wood for the purpose of creating the coals, then there's some process that's unfolding. The main desired result is, as our former Boy Scout Francie has indicated with great authority with his badges, it's the coals you want to make. You didn't make the coals at the beginning. So then the biur and the hana'a are not the same thing. So then that's the Gemara now says, okay. And Rava says, yeah, but generally when you're talking about wood, generally wood and branches are for the purpose of burning. And the first thing we will see now after I take questions will be the question of, really, does everyone agree that that's true? Stam eitzim lahasaka, is that true or not? We'll get into it momentarily in this fascinating line of Rashi. It's like it stands out for its biographical significance, I would say, or autobiographical significance. Well, cut wood wouldn't be. The point was it was the ale kanim, the ale gefanim that we had. So it would be used. It could be used as animal feed. You're taking it's like hay. regular wood from a tree, like bark on a tree, or regular wood, animals generally don't eat it unless they're slugs or something. But let's say you have leaves in a field. Ale kana means the leaves attached to reeds, or the ale, that's the ale kanim. The ale gefanim is the grape leaves. So you take those, you gather them and you put them in a storehouse.
Right.
So the question is that a kudut shvit or not? Well, the question the Gemara says turns on whether you intend to use it, those leaves, to feed your animals, in which case it's food, in which case the moment it will be eaten is the moment that the benefit will be derived, in which case it has kedushat shviit, or you took it for burning it for some other purpose, and the burning is not the consumption and the burning for the person making heat. The burning and the enjoyment are not at the same time. It's a process that's unfolding. Okay, back to Lara again.
But I don't understand. Plus it's a lachem. So that's inclusive of the animals?
Min hastam, yeah, because you are benefiting from it. You want an example? You're not allowed to get hana from chametz.
Right.
So can you feed your animal chametz?
No.
Of course not, because you're getting the benefit. It's related.
I'll push back on that.
All right.
You're getting enough. And
Why are you getting hana from that? Because your animal's fed.
we have to be fed.
Okay.
So you're getting enough.
Yeah. When are you getting the hana?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. In the case of Shemitah, it does matter. And if it's being eaten at the moment that the animal's enjoying it, you're enjoying because you're getting the benefit. The animal is fed. You don't have to find other food. Ergo, it has kedushat shviit.
I just have to accept it. The lachem is inclusive of any.
It seems to be. Yeah.
You get enough. That is-
Working assumption, yes. We'll soon see. Not necessarily everyone will agree to that, but that's the flow of the Gemara. So now the next part of the Gemara here is it's the next line. It's the end of the line that begins with the word Rava. It's again, 2/3 of the way down the page, right? The last word is Ve'etzim lahasaka tanoihi. The question about the burning of wood is actually machloket among the Tanoim. Now, what about it is a machloket? We'll have to come back to now as we're reading. But the Tanya, right, as we learned, ein mosrin perot shvit lola mishra lola kvusa. Rabbi Yossi Omer mosrin. So there's the idea that during Shviit, during the year of Shemitah, you have fruit that is with Kedushat Shviit. You may not put it in the vat for the soaking of flax. That's how the fibers get softened, the retting process. And Kvusa, you can't use it for laundry, right? The Perot Shviit cannot be used in laundry. In other words, the juice from it, in order to soak it, to soak the clothing, whatever it is. And Rabbi Yossi says you can. So the Gemara asks, "My time at the Tanakama, what's the rationale of the Tanakama?" The Amakra, because the pasuk says le'ochla. It has to be an act of eating. V'lo mishra v'lo kvusa. But Rabbi Yossi disagrees. My time at Rabbi Yossi Amakra lachem. Back to Larry's point, lachem l'chol tzar chechem. For you, for any of your purposes, va'afil l'mishra v'likvusa. We'll stop here for a minute. Now, it's sort of including what Larry said before, because it means all of your needs. And you would think what means your animal needs. Yeah. But the truth is, it doesn't cut on all of your needs that belong to you, including extended items, whether those objects are alive, like animals, or whether they're dead, like your laundry or flax that you're trying to soften up, but rather on the question of the simultaneity of the consumption of it versus the enjoyment that's derived from it. And in the case of Mishra, it's a process of soaking the flax fibers till they get softened. It takes time. It's not instantaneous. As the whatever it is, the Perot Shviit are being consumed. Basically seems to be some kind of wine, by the way, that you're using. That was particularly good. I guess maybe it's acidic content. I'm not sure. I guess so. So it's softening it up. It's going to take time. When are you going to get hana from that flax? You make it into clothing. It's like 10 days from now. It's not the moment of. And the same thing is true with the kvusa. So yeah, in the end, your clothing will be clean. Well, it's not clean right away. It's going to take some time.
Right.
And the net result is that it's not an instantaneous occurrence. So according to that, but excuse me, for the Tanakama, it's la'ochla, so it has to be instantaneous. Rabbi Yossi says lachem, for anything you need, including mishra and kavusa. With Mark first and then Larry.
So where did
I preempted you because I think you're shaking your head. You're about to ask, but
sorry, where did you get to this
concept of spontaneity there. 'Cause
Simultaneity.
Well,
The simultaneity, I just said the word the first time now, but I was searching for it
because
for about 2
have-
weeks.
the machloket is aqua and lachem. Nothing to do with, meaning, if it's something that you can eat, let's start there.
Yeah.
The fact that you are able to eat it or it is food doesn't mean if you eat it now or in 3 days, it
Right.
still has the kedusha shviit.
That's true.
So why would lachem not have that same exact
Need for
need?
simultaneity.
Meaning, if you have a need for it, and if you get hana from it, then why would it have to be simultaneous? Why
Okay.
would it also
Yeah.
have a delay?
Well, the reason is twofold. Number one, because I read ahead, so that's not fair of
Well,
me.
that's not fair.
That's not fair. But number two, the point is, that's true. But the Mishra and the I'm being honest, the Mishra and the Kavusa,
Well,
these two things are processes that have a time lapse.
no,
But you're just saying the
no,
Tanakh is
no,
eating or
no,
not
no,
eating.
so forget about the fact that you read ahead. Stay within if you stay within the framework of the argument where we are today,
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Right now, we have a differentiating component of achila and lachem, which
Yeah.
has nothing to do with simultaneity.
Simultaneity, yeah.
I don't even know if that's a word, but
I'm
anyway.
pretty sure it is.
All right, well.
But I'm not 100% sure.
In Canada, maybe.
Get your Scrabble
So,
dictionary.
Anyway, but we don't, right now, we have no concept of that. We have two differentiating components for which the lulav would qualify as kedusha shvi at this point under the lachem argument.
Wait, why are we back to Lulav?
Well, sorry.
Talk about
The
eitzim.
wood. So
The wood,
eitzim-
yeah.
The eitzim would qualify under lachem. Now,
Right,
later,
L'chol Tzarchechem,
later
right.
there may be let's deal with that later. But for right now, that's the argument. So I don't see where we bring that in now. And I'm trying to, so I get lost when we throw that in because I would see the simultaneity both applying to achila, and to lachem. I don't see it differentiating.
Okay, I think you're mostly right. But the point here is that I'm being straight with you. You're right. On its own terms, I think you could argue that. The question is, why did the issue of once you got to Mishra and Kavusa, it turns out the two examples that were given were not examples of things that were not food related, that involved their moment of being consumed with the moment of enjoyment. The two examples that were marshaled were two examples of things where there was a process unfolding.
But there's always, I'm done after this one.
No. This is good. This is what learning is. I don't know
With
accept what I
anything
say,
that's
hook, line, and sinker.
lachem,
Yeah.
There's always going to be a process. Meaning, when you get hana from something indirectly, okay, non-food, right? I get hana from.
It could be direct.
It could be.
It doesn't have to be.
It's going to include a process. It could include a process.
Right. But wouldn't it have been neater, just tidier, had the example that was given, that was a non-food example, been if you light, what the Gemara said a little earlier, you light a torch because you want illumination. The oil wood, remember, it's
Oil,
as it's burning, it's illuminating. So it's an exact same moment. For some weird reason, when the Mishnah is arguing this, when the Breiter rather is arguing this back and forth, the Tanaim are arguing about when we talk about things that are beyond you in food land, but you in general in your life, it marshaled two examples, neither of which is actually where at the instant that it's being consumed, you're deriving benefit. Why is that? Couldn't have reached for an easier example.
Wasn't it oil? You got the light. That was.
It was earlier, yes, but this is Exhibit A. You know, the Gemara. Now that Rava asserted, oh, trees, it's always for burning, right? Stam eitzim ulahasaka ein omdin. The Gemara said, really? For eitzim lasaka tanaihi. But actually, that's a machloket tanaim. Detanya, as we learn in the Breita, ein mosrin, and it goes from there. Yeah. Ein mosrin perit shviit lo lemishrav lekvusa, Rabbi Yosef Omer mosrin. Right. So my tamatanakama damakrogs, they derive it, but because he says it's la'achla, has to be something that you're going to eat. Right. V'lo lemishrav lekvusa, which are two things which you don't eat. But you could have also read this Gemara, which is how I read it, because conceptually, that's where it does go. But you're right on its terms. You don't have to read it that way. But la'achla means to eat, means to consume. as opposed to things that involve a process. Now, if you read this Gemara two ways.
Oh, so you're transferring Achla not as.
Yeah,
food,
but
as
the truth is, I accept what you say, because like I said, mea culpa, I read ahead. So,
Yeah.
but let's just say it, if you're just reading it at face value, la'achla means to eat, means food. Lemishra likfus are two things that are not food. But what I'm saying is just think logically based on what we talked about previously. La'achla is the act of something being consumed and enjoyed at the same moment, versus, and by the way, in that category would also be lighting a torch on fire. You have a olive wood, you light it on fire for light. So at the moment that the oil is being consumed on this torch, you're getting enjoyment. That's also in this definition. Le'achla, lemishav likvusa is processes where there's a gap, a time lag between the moment that it's being consumed and the enjoyment that you will derive from it.
But bringing that from Bahar, Sukkan and Bahar to that is also a leap. Because in the Torah,
Yeah,
it's all about
fine,
food,
fine,
right?
Agreed.
Still,
Agreed.
Still have to get there. And we
agreed.
still don't see
But
how
but
it comes.
the fact that there was that leap that Chazal understood was itself because they saw the word food in conceptual terms,
I understand.
right? Not just as
Okay.
literally ochel, but as that it means what is ochel?
So
That
where
which
would-
is consumed. They took the characteristic of it and said that characteristic is
So
what matters.
Where would a pancake that I made with wheat,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Wait, a pancake?
I took wheat, I kept from
You made a
Shemitah,
loaf of bread out of wheat.
and I made a loaf of bread, and I didn't consume it right away. I consumed it in
The
3 days or
That
4
was my
days.
question, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
If
That's
I
good.
kept talking long enough, I knew I'd get there.
Yeah, that's
That's not.
that's doable, except for-
Hang on.
oh, sorry.
Under your second paradigm
Yeah,
of immediacy
yeah,
and non-immediacy, I'll use different
yeah.
terms. Now you have non-immediacy food, which theoretically, according to that paradigm, would fall under the lachem, I guess, but not achila.
Okay.
So that would be odd.
Right, except for one thing. The bread is not consumed until it's actually eaten.
Right.
You can bake the bread. You didn't consume the bread. You're transforming the bread. You're allowed to do that.
I'll wait until we get to this part.
No, you understand? You're allowed to, you're transforming the wheat into bread. It's the bread of Shviit,
Yeah.
but that's not the issue. The issue is it being consumed and enjoyed at the same time? It's not, are you doing a process to it?
Okay.
When you put the wine in the vat, the wine itself is being whatever the word is, decomposed, soaked up. It's gone. We're gonna get there. We shouldn't get there
When
yet.
we get there, I'll ask my question.
Yeah, you're washing it in wine. So you're using the wine.
We'll get.
We'll get there.
The wine is fermenting all the, it's going through the.
But the
process.
point is being ruined. So it's
It's
being ruined
Right. It's
as
ruined.
it's soaking the item, but the item, you're not
Right.
getting the benefit from the item at that moment. You're waiting till it comes back out of the vat,
No.
which could be 3 days later. As opposed to baking bread where you have bread, you have wheat, you transform it into bread. That's not the issue. You didn't eat it yet. That's not usser. The isser would be if you took the bread and you burned the bread. That you can't do.
So,
Wait, it's mutter to eat bread made from Shviit flour?
I think so. It has kedushat shviit. It's not forbidden to eat it. If you had it, yeah. Lachem la'ochla.
so
We're
this might
we're
be-
just getting our land legs here with the whole world of Shemitah. It's very confusing.
But this
right,
might be
but-
a bad example, but take Yom Kippur, okay? And somebody wants to eat, no, not eat, okay? Take somebody wants to have one of those Listerine packs, let's say.
Okay.
Or some gum. And they're not getting any, you're not consuming it, you may be getting hana out of it, but can somebody theoretically use that on Yom Kippur?
I don't know that the analogy necessarily works because you are getting hana out of it.
But,
You're saying it's not being destroyed.
but exactly.
Not sure.
Okay.
I mean,
Before
okay.
we move on,
I'm not
we-
sure.
We have two paradigms on this.
Yeah,
Eat and hana and
a process,
simultaneity to a
Yeah.
process, an immediate process. and
not a process. Immediacy versus a process.
Right,
We say it that way if you
immediacy
like it
versus a
better.
process. Okay.
That's what we have so
Got it.
far. And they're both deriving it from the words lachem le'ochla, right? One of them said, oh, highlight the word lo'ochla. The other one said, no, highlight the word lachem. You know, so
Okay.
the Gemara here says, right? My time at the Tanakama, I'm just rereading it now. Again, I'm right now it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 lines up or so.
Yep.
Rabbi Yossi Amar Mosrin, Rabbi My Tama Memtet, My Tama Tanakama Damakra, La'achav Lamishra V'Likvusa. My Tama Rabbi Yossi Amakra Lachem, Lachem L'chol Tzarchechem, Va'afilu Lamishra V'Likvusa. You need to both. Everything's good. Everybody's happy, right? So if you just hold your finger here, because now we're gonna have to reckon with. Well, actually, let's go one more line. V'Tanakama Haktiv Lachem. Yeah, Tanakama, you have to admit you said la'achla, but there's another word there. It says lachem la'achla. So how lachem? No, lachem is dumid de la'achla. The lachem in the pasuk is to teach me that the word la'achla is it modifies the word la'achla. Misha hana'ato u'biurosh shaveh yatzu mishra kvusa shanatan achar biuran. The Tanakama, when he was asked, yeah, what are you going to do? The other fellow over here, this nice Tana, Rabbi Yossi, said lachem l'chol tzorcheichem, and you said la'achla just for food, but it says lachem. So what do you do with lachem? Lachem is to teach us that it has to be something mishana ato ubi shaveh. Has to be for you. Yatsu mishra ukvusa shanatan achar biuran. That excludes the case of the soaking in the wine for the purpose of retting or for the purpose of laundering. Right? Shanatan achar biuran. It's going to be later. We're going to see the Rashi in a minute. And then you go back to Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi haktiv la'achla. Wait a minute, Rabbi Yossi. Lachem l'chol tzarchechem. Then why did it turn out of its way to say la'achla for food, for eating, for consumption? Hahu mebayale la'achla v'lo l'melugma. That's required so you can eat it and not for the purpose of being a melugma. What's a melugma? It's a poultice. A poultice. Poultice. It's a salve. Yeah, it's a bandage of a sort, but it's more than a bandage. It's not just like stam, like a one-off. It also has some kind of medicinal. It's a salve that goes with some kind of reeds or whatever it is. So it's like a pack that's going on top. Plaster. Early bandit. It's art scroll. Plaster. I say poultice. I say poultice. You say plaster. But it's the same idea. Yeah. I'll tell you why I like poultice better. Because it's medicated. The plaster just sounds like plaster, like on the wall or like a Band-Aid. But the point is there's something here that's medicinal that you prepared. So not to exclude Kinatanya la'achal v'lo malugma. So as we learn another braita, it's to eat, but not for making a malugma. Ata Omer, I think it's the Rambam, by the way. I think I saw in one of the anthologies, malugma, I think the Rambam says, has to do with like malulugmav. It's something that goes in your cheek. So that's back to what you said just now about Yom Kippur. Something that you like either gargle or something like that. It goes in your mouth, you don't swallow it.
Right.
You spit it out. So malugma, lugmav. But the pshat here is malugma is something topical. So ata omer le'ochlav malugma. 4 lines up from the bottom. O eino ella v'lo lekvusa. How do you know? They said to Rabbi Yossi, how are you so sure le'ochla means and not medicine, but rather something that's going to be consumed? And you're so sure that, how do you know le'ochla doesn't mean items that are consumed as opposed to items that are you're soaking for the purpose of laundry? Shomer lachem hari lekvusa. And more hamani mekayim le'ochla. Right. So wait, why are you going to say it that way? Right. In other words, you could say it backwards. Right. He said, no. I say it's not for kvusa. Sorry, shomer lachem. When it says lachem, harili kvusa, that's to include laundering. And more, what caused you to say that you're going to include kvusa? Means the laundry example, and take out melugma, the refuah example. Next page. Marbeani etakvusa. The reason why, if you're going to ask me why I'm inclusive of one and exclusive of the other, marbeani etakvusa sheshava b'chol adam. Everybody needs to get their laundry done. Umotzi at a melugma she'ena shava l'chol adam, and I exclude the medicinal component because not every human being needs it at the same time. Some need it, some don't. Rashi, top of the page. Marbani adakvusa sheshav b'chol adam shakol tzrichin la k'mo achila sheshav b'chol adam. Here, laundry is described as being something that is shav b'chol adam. Everybody needs it. Melugma she'ena shava b'chol adam she'ena kol chulin. Cholin, excuse me. Not everybody's sick. So and therefore, it's not that. That's why I argued it the way I did. Namely, lachem means for all of your needs, including kvusa, but le'achla means le'achla, but not for something that is just going to be manipulated in order to be used for a purpose of refuah, but not the word le'achla, in other words, means things that are shava l'chol adam. Everybody needs it. Anything that you can say is required on an ongoing basis for all people at all times for sustenance, food, and apparently there's a raya over here, laundry, but not refuah, because refuah is situational. Now, obviously, if it's a sakanat nefashot, like there's obviously a way around it. But Rabbi Yossi's point is, what do I do with the word la'achla? It is delimiting in some way. It means something that's not like food, something that everybody has an ongoing daily need for, or ongoing need for, I say daily, but ongoing need for.
But the truth is, laundry, if you look at it from laundry's perspective too, it's like on Pesach, you can't take your shirts or whatever and get starch in it because you're getting hana from it.
Yeah, right.
It's chametz.
That's true.
So it's the same.
Also, cholamoid, you can't go to the
You can't go to the cleaners.
Yeah, for cholamoid reasons.
But the same principle applies here because of the aspect of, when you're talking about laundry.
Related
to it.
Related. Now go back to 40a, if you would, please, with me. I'll just go one level deeper here to understand what's going on in Rashi. It's really, really fascinating. Rashi teaches us here. So I'm on 40a in the wide lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down. Umishane before stam, umishane stam eitzim, umishane stam eitzim shel hesek. We learned that stam eitzim is for the purpose of burning lahasaka nitnu labriot v'staman lav laha'ir kimu. That wood. Don't forget, to us, like, of course, you make a wood fire, but in the olden days, the wood was used for one thing, and the oil was used for something else, right? The oil lamp, that's the lights, right? So mishani stam eitzim shel hesek lahasaka nitnu labriot ustaman lav laha'ir kimu. That's not why they're around. Hilkach lo nachta bahu kedushat shviit meikara va'afil lekatan laha'ir. So therefore, the notion of kedushat shviit does not rest or land upon it, right? Initially, and even if you had a small one that you're using for light, it's not its main purpose. But then Rashi says, "Hey Gimel, hachi garsinan, right?" So hachi garsinan, he says, "Eitzim de hasaka tanoihi." Eitzim of hasaka is a machloket tanoim. When you look in the version that we have in our Gemara, it says ve'eitzim lehasaka tanoihi. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So Rashi tells us the following: ve'eitzim de hasaka gufaihu shenat hanaatan achar biuran tanoihi. The fact that eitzim, it's the argument here where that's going to be marshal that we just learned together is not an argument about what the actual function of eitzim is. Is it really for hasaka or for something else? But rather the point is to say that hasaka is an example of the time when the hana happens after the biur. The burning happens first. The benefit comes later. Tanoihi ina hagabahu shviit ilo. And there is an argument among the Tanoim if that situation is one in which there is a kedushat shviit for eitzim or not. Del ika tana de darish lachem dumadila achila lameute kol shahanaato achar biuro. There's a tana who holds that lachem, it means just like achila, to exclude anything that does not have its hanaa at the exact moment of its biur, or I'll say positively, any time that the hana happens later than the biur, kidarshinan le'el, as we learned earlier. Umehai drasha imut eitzim. From that drasha was eitzim excluded. V'ikidolomamait minei ela davar she'enanato shava b'chol adam kigon melugma v'ziluf va'piktoisin. We haven't seen those latter two things, but all right, and there are those who do not exclude from the drasha anything other than times when the hana is not shave l'chol adam, right? That was the other opinion. Remember, that's Rabbi Yossi.
Yep.
Okay. What's ziluf and what's apiktoisin? We'll see it. We'll see it next time. Two different other things you can do with it that did not include eating or consumption immediate with an immediate benefit. Now Rashi gives you this autobiographical note. Quite something. Ustam eitzim lahasaka ninhu tanoihi. In my rebbeim, in my learning from my rebbeim, they learned this Gemara. They thought the words in the Gemara here were supposed to be not stam, not eitzim da'asaka tanoihi, eitzim da'asaka tanoihi, right? It's an argument about eitzim da'asaka, but rather they would learn ustam eitzim lahasaka ninhu tanoihi. And the definition of eitzim as being only for hasaka, for burning, as opposed to being for giving life, something else, that's what the Tanaim are arguing about. V'chein katuv b'chol asfar, and that's written in all of the manuscripts, all of the books. V'tarachti min urai b'chol tzidei shitat ashas liyashva kifi divrayim, and I tried from my youth in all the different sides of the different versions and approaches of Shas to explain the way my Rebbeim explained this Gemara according to their understanding of it, but ve'eni yachol, I was not successful. So what happened? Matzati girsazu, this version, the one that's in my Dibur HaMatchil, eitzim da'asaka tanoi, which in our version of the Gemara is a little different. It's eitzim le'asaka, but in Rashi we have eitzim de'asaka. By the way, the Dalit and the Lamed, they kind of look alike, especially in, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Interchangeable. Yeah, they're a little bit interchangeable. The Lama just has a little line coming out of it, but it looks almost like it. So who knows? It's la saka, da saka. But he says, what happened? And I found something Girsub Sefer, Ktav Yadosh Rabbeinu Gershom ben Yehuda, Menuchato Kavod. Menuchato Kavod is Alav HaShalom. May he rest in peace. May he rest with glory. Who's Rabbeinu Gershom ben Yehuda? Rabbeinu Gershom Me'or Hagola. Circa 940 to 2000 to 1000 of the Common Era, circa, right? Rabbeinu Gershom or Hagola, from whom the whole of the tradition of Ashkenaz stems from him. His Talmidim included Rebbeim of Rashi. So he says, I found that version. Uveseder Yeshuot shel Rabbeinu Yitzchak bar Menachem Katuv Ve'ena Mugav V'cheini Rebbe'enai, and I found it also in the Seder Yeshuot, another manuscript. Rabbeinu Yitzchak bar Menachem, I don't know who that is. Presumably one of the Bali Tosfot or someone contemporaneous to, but probably one contemporaneous to Rashi in the same base matter. I don't know. And it wasn't Muga. So I'm taking that version. I'm telling you that version's correct. And that's actually sort of what we have written in our Gemara. In other words, it's not really up for grabs if eitzim are for the purpose of hasaka. That's actually a given in the problem. The question is, when we talk about what constitutes the lachem and laochla, what are the parameters of that? And that's here where the Tanaim are still already arguing on what do we need for kedusha at Shviit, mishahanato ubiuro shaveh, as opposed to things that have a process. And Rabbi Yossi dissents. He thinks no, anything that's a purpose that's for you, that is in the category of food as opposed to medicine. What's in the category of food? You also conceptualize the word food. It doesn't mean just things you put in your mouth. It's things that are general needs that everybody has, like laundry, right?
Wait, so
like having clothing.
Wait, so what does it mean? Rabbi Yitzchak bar Menachem Katuv Ve'eno Moga.
Muga means it's not edited, right? And I think, and I agree with that approach. I mean, what he wrote, and that's why you have Hachi Garsim. Just like it's striking. See, listening from this Rebbeim, he tried his whole life. He really couldn't figure it out, but he found other manuscripts from the Rebbeim, some of the Rebbeim's. Rebbe, right? It's three principal Rebbeim, Rashi, and that one he thinks is correct. She's going against his Rebbeim because he found that the Rebbe before, and one other source had this gears because he couldn't be miyashiv the gears. It's just an interesting idea that Rashi would write this. V'tarachti min urai, right? B'chol tzidei shitat hashas liyashva kvi divrayim ve'eni yachol. I wasn't able to do it, so I had to revert to something else. Anyway. So just for consideration, let's keep going in Rashi to fill it out. Ein most in Perat Shviit lo tok Misra. Rashi says lishrot pishtan b'yein shel Shviit. So you're soaking the pishtan, is the flax, in the wine of Shviit. V'lo kvusa lekibus begadim b'yayin ulichbos begadim b'yayin shel Shviit. Misra ukvusa hanatan achar biuran. Why? Why is there a delay? Last line of Rashi. Shemisha sheshor habegadim or pishtan b'yayin sha'achat nitba'er ve'ibedlo ve'avadlo. Excuse me. The wine gets consumed. The wine is no longer available. V'nahato eina ad sheyilbash begadim. You're not going to get the enjoyment until you actually put on the clothing. The clothing hasn't been made yet. Clothing that hasn't been laundered yet. It's going to take time, and therefore that's the time delay. Right? But in that process, the wine will have already been long consumed. As opposed to the example that was given earlier about the bread, you're baking the bread to eat the bread. So it's the moment of the eating, but there's nothing wrong with the transformational process before.
Except the wheat is the thing with the Kedusha Shviit.
So is the bread.
But the wheat gets consumed when you make the bread. It gets transformed.
That's okay.
Well,
That's
how is
just-
it different than the wine?
Because the wine is actually no longer extant. I don't understand the
The
process.
wine wasn't edible to begin with. It was soaked in laundry.
Yeah, right.
So it's not like it was.
Right.
I think it went from food to nothing.
Which Rabbi Yossi thinks is still fine because
Correct.
everyone needs laundry.
Right. But in the other.
The other side, the Tanakhama says, yeah, but the biur and the hana are not the same.
Right.
Apparently, in this process, the wine gets destroyed. It's not being transformed like after you're wearing the clothing and it
in my
smells like
Yankees
wine.
mind, it just doesn't line up. That's why I'm frustrated because it's not symmetrical. It's
Lopsided in your mind.
lopsided, correct.
Well, this was being brought as like Exhibit A,
No, I
right? To
understand.
show that what they're arguing about in the Gemara on the top of 40A actually has an antecedent in the world of the Tanaim. They were already trying to figure this out, and not everyone agreed. We'll see the next Gemara. We have I have 8 more minutes if you have time. You have 8 more minutes? Go 8:15. Huh?
Debbie's away. I mean-
Well, that's okay. Well,
Oh, you're-
fine.
you're-
I have something else at 8:30, so I have
don't
fixed
have to be
8:15.
home till-
Please.
tomorrow at
Yeah,
4.
well, it's also good.
The point you were making, Mark, to what you were saying, is that in the case of the laundry and the grapes, it's no longer consumable, but the wheat is still consumable, albeit in a different form.
True.
Great. That must be the chiluk. That must be the chiluk. If you turn to 40B, we'll learn a few more lines of the Gemara.
That was good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. See, in Beis Medrash B'lo Chiddush. Page 40B, third line. Man Tana Lahad Tana Rabbanan. Who's the Tana who said the following? The Tana Rabbanan, as our rabbis taught, La'achla, v'lo malugma, la'achla, v'lo ziluf. Ziluf is used to use wine as like an aromatic in the house. If you look at Rashi, third line of Rashi, zalif, yanshim zalfim b'bayit l'reach tov. Spread it on the floor. The floors are not stone usually. Back in the day, they're dirt. Yeah, whatever it is. L'ziluf, la'achlav l'lasam mimena apiktoizen. What's an apiktoizen? And it's something that's emittive. What's it called? An emetic. Thank you. I was looking for the word. Right? It's because he's not eating it. It's back to your gum exam. It's caused people to throw up, but it's not food. Kaman, Karabi Yossi. The Rabbanan ha'ika nami mishra kusa. So, la'achla for the Rabbanan. Yeah, that's la'achla. You should have included mishra and kusa. Why do you include those? Must be like Rabbi Yossi, right? So, sort of a QED. If you look at Rashi here, second to last wide line, apik toizen lahaki. Ruben notrikon. Apik tfei zin. Mazun, ha'ochel, milter midai, motzi umeki. It's when someone eats too much food, they get rid of the extra food. Okay, eat less.
I'm sorry,
Anochikon is an acronym.
Okay.
An acronym. So, or a concatenated word. In this case, I don't say it's really a compound word, right? Notrikon usually means an acronym of some sort. So, an abbreviation of some kind. This first of the narrow lines. Kiman Rabbi Yossi. That all he limits is something that is involving enjoyment or benefit that is not equivalent for all people. These three things are all for people who are either ill or of delicate stature. Right, and as we learned previously, that according to these Rabbanan, that's back on 40A, they said that, right, there's no Shviit unless it's something where the Kedushat Shviit, unless it's something where the Hana'a and the Biur are happening at the same moment. Darshinan Leinami, Hachi, they learn it as follows in the Pasuk in Parshat Bahar. Vaita Shabbat Haaretz, No heged, but right, it shall be the Shabbat haaretz, meaning Shviit. No heged, but davar shehu lachem dumin de la'achla. It should be something that's for you, that is in the manner of la'achla, to consume it. Shehana ato biro shaveh v'lo be'etzim, but not in wood. I.e., back to the case about the making of coals from the wood. Rabbi Yossi darish hachi. Rabbi Yossi reads the pasuk like this: V'aytas Shabbat haaretz no heget kulo. You should have the Shviit being noheg. You should accept it. Applying to things. Kulo shahana. Excuse me. Shahanato no heget. Sorry. V'aytas Shabbat haaretz no heget kulo. Shahanato shaveh b'chol adam. V'afilu eitzim lahasaka. Even trees and wood that's going to be used as firewood, i.e., to make the coals. That's also good enough reason to include it in Kedushat Shviit. That's what Rabbi Yossi holds. Rashi here gave you like the drasha on the pasuk as a summary rather of the section that had come before. Like, how do they plug it back into the pasuk? That's how they read the pasuk variously. And typically, of course, we say the halacha follows the majority. So it doesn't really follow Rabbi Yossi, and it's why Rava can make the statement that he made. Saying, well, by the way, this argument goes way back.
So acharei the Rabbi Lato.
Yeah, essentially. I think we have to stop here because the next part of Rav Lazar with Ein Shviit min chalelet el derech mekach and Rabbi Yochanan's machloka with him bei derech mekach ben derech chilul is a totally new sugya. It's not totally new, but it's obviously they're all connected. But I can't open it without going all the way to Mem Aleph.
What time next week?
Next week,
What's the story?
immediately after Marv? No, it's too late.
Next week will be about.
Hold on,
7:05,
I know
maybe?
the time right now. Hold on. March, what is it? The 25th of Adar Sheni is next week,
March
28th.
corresponding to March 28th, Lamin Yanam.
Yeah.
So Mincha Marv 7:00, sunset 7:12. So say 7:30.
Okay.
Yeah, 7:30.
Are we gonna get to the Rav Ramon's item?
Yeah, we were going to get to it, but then I had a bunch of people attacking me saying it's not a halacha shir. It's a Gemara shir. We don't have to keep learning the halacha, so I didn't open up again.
Okay,
Most time we're going to get to the Rav Rimon, 3-4 pages.
Oh,
Where he's quoting Rav Shlomo Zalman, and he's quoting Rav Elyashiv, various Gedolei Torah, Bisman Hazeh, and whatnot. Maybe we will get there, but we're going to get to the end of the sugya of Shviit, by the way, on Mem Aleph Amud Aleph. So there's like one more shir, maybe 2 more, 1.5 more shiurim on the issue of Shemitah as it pertains to Gemara Sukka, and maybe there before we start the next Mishnah, Bli Neder, we'll open up the few pages in Rabbi Rimon so we'll know practically what to do. I skipped the sugya, by the way, of can you use Perot Shviit for Mishloach Manot? It's going to be a sugya next year, I guess more than this year, but it's already, forget it. It's Purim's come and gone. There's a question about matzah shel Shviit.
Yeah.
That maybe we'll get there maybe on Pesach. But next time we learn, we'll start on line whatever it is on the Machlok at Rabbi Lazar and on Ein Shviit min chalelet el derech mekach. That's already 5-6 lines down.
Sure.
We'll start there next week. And good to see you, as many people back here, and good to see you on Zoom. Kol Tuv.